All right, guys, it is 7 o'clock my time, so let's get started. I'm excited to talk to you guys today, especially because we're going to be going over a lot of meat. I'm going to get this so that you don't have those weird sunset lines for my blinds. Okay, today we're talking about how to upgrade your wardrobe without looking like a gentle dork. Now, a gentle dork is one of these, some of you guys may be familiar with the term, a lot of you guys might not be, but a gentle dork is somebody who is going through this phase of starting to dress better. He's no longer sloppy. He's no longer casual. But what he's doing is making the assumption that in order to have good style, he has to dress formally. And not only that, because there are plenty of guys who dress formally all the time and they have great style, but a gentle dork is a guy who the only value that he brings to the table is his formal style. He thinks that I dress formally or I dress vintage, therefore I am a man. And that's a crappy phase to go through. And sadly, a lot of guys, even if you already do have other value that you bring to the table, maybe your fitness is dialed in, maybe you're great with women, you've got a good relationship, maybe your finances are in check. But if you're projecting to everybody else that the only thing that you have going for you is that you know how to rock a fedora, and the reality is you probably don't, that sucks. The story that you're telling, the thing that you're projecting to everybody else is miserable. And sadly, a lot of guys, myself included, go through this phase of I'm moving away from casual, not really caring that much about how I dress, into the gentle dork. And only after years and years do they finally start to move out from that. And a lot of guys don't. They just get stuck in there. And so my goal tonight is to help you guys avoid it altogether, or for you guys who are in that phase to be able to get out of it. Okay, so I want you guys to give me a 1 in the chat box if you are the kind of guy who has been actively improving his style for a little while. This is not your first foray into I care about how I look, but you've actually invested some time, some energy, maybe some money into improving the way that you look. So give me a 1 in the chat box in there. All right, 1, 1, 1. Few ones rolling in. Okay, good. Oh, okay, nice. We got a lot of you guys. Okay, good. Yes, awesome. Okay, now, this is not just for you guys. Obviously, I'm going to be hitting you guys, and that's the majority of my readership, the majority of my guys who I work with one-on-one and stuff like that, so I get a lot of ones. But for you guys who this may be your first thing that you've ever tried to do, maybe you just recently found me on Twitter, maybe you're here because Alexander was tweeting this stuff out earlier today, let me know. Give me a 2 if you've never really tried to improve your style, and you're still very much in this territory of I don't know what I'm doing at all. Okay. We got Jonathan at a 2, Eddie at a 2, David at 2. Okay, a few more 2s. Nice. Okay, good. This is a good representation across the board. That is good to know. Oh, nice. Yeah, we got a lot of you guys. Okay, great. Well, here's what's cool. I'm going to be able to help both of you guys out. Now, before we do that, there's a couple of things that I want to do. Again, I want to dive into the meat as soon as possible, but in order to make this work for you guys, especially to make sure you get the most value, I want to kind of set the stage properly before we do this. So a lot of you guys had told me as we were kind of getting ready for the pre-show that this was your first webinar, but whether it is or it isn't, oh man, you guys, there's so much that we can do. And the thing that's really interesting about the internet and the world that we live in today is that there's so much information out there about everything, including style. And I will tell you guys that everything that I will teach you tonight, you can go find on the internet for free. Absolutely. But here's the problem is that when we have access to all the information about everything, it's really easy to get information overload. And unless you're kind of the kind of person that has the patience and the time, or in all reality, the desire to be able to go through and sift through all that and find the good information, the applicable information for you, then really all that information kind of sucks, because it doesn't do you any more good than having no information does, because you still don't know what's actionable and what isn't. At the same time, you want to be able to work with somebody who's done all of that for you and can teach you what information is applicable, what's actionable, and what really can be avoided. You need somebody like me, because I have done this for myself. I've done this for clients. I've done this in the industry for years. And so that's why I'm really excited to talk to you. I know a lot of you guys probably are doing what I did when I first started, where it's like, okay, well, I want to get good at style because I dress like an idiot or like a kid. So I'm going to go pick up an issue of GQ, or maybe it's Esquire. Maybe you're even doing a little bit better and you're buying a magazine like The Rake. And some of those have really good stuff in them, but for the most part, they're not going to work for you because they take a one-size-fits-all approach. They want you to dress exactly like the models or exactly like the brands, which the only reason those brands are in there is because they've paid thousands of dollars in order to be featured in those magazines. it doesn't work. Okay, so all of that kind of setting the stage. I know that a lot of times as we're getting into this, we just go, this is way more complicated than it should be. And if you have the hunch that dressing well and dressing stylishly should be simple, it should be easy, and it should be straightforward, you are absolutely right. It really is. And I will tell you guys that the amount of energy and thought that I put into what I wear every day, or that I put into what I'm buying, is really not that much more than what you guys probably do. I'm just better at it. And so I'm applying that energy at the right place. And that's what I want to help you guys do, is get to that point yourselves. Okay. One last thing, just to kind of shake all this out. I only want you guys in here if this is going to be valuable for you. So if you're not going to act on any of this stuff, please just leave. And no hard feelings. I can see a couple guys have already dropped off. That's great. Honestly, if you're not planning on actually putting this into practice, just go ahead and walk away. Also, if you're the kind of person who's going to get upset that I'm going to spend a chunk of time teaching you a bunch of stuff, and then once we've done that, I'm actually going to have a good offer for you guys too, if somehow that doesn't sit right with you, then you're welcome to leave too. Because yes, I want to talk to you about how I can help you directly on top of actually teaching you a bunch of actionable stuff tonight. So make sure that you're here to actually do something instead of just, feeling good because, hey, I'm learning something. So go ahead and leave if that's not you. And if it is, then we're going to be able to make this happen. Okay, my goal for you guys today, for you guys who gave me the twos, you're the beginners. You don't know anything about this. You're just getting started. My goal for you is to get you going so that you can totally bypass that Gentledork phase and any other awkward, I don't know what I'm doing, I look like I'm trying too hard, I'm an idiot, I'm going to help you guys skip all of that. For you guys who gave me a number one, you guys who have some experience in this, maybe you started off on a level 1 or a level 2, and then you are now probably at maybe like a 5 or a 6. You feel like, I've got some good things under my belt, I don't look like I'm trying too hard, but what I really want to do is be at like a 7 or an 8. I'm going to get you guys there tonight, and then I'm going to give you the tools to help you get to a 9 or a 10. So that's my goal for you guys tonight. Again, whether you're a beginner, you've got some experience under your belt, after we're done tonight, we're going to get you going even further. So here's what we're going to see. Here's kind of what we're going to cover. Why most beginners fail miserably when it comes to style. I'm going to tell you guys my story. Not that my story is super applicable, except that I can help you guys out with yours. How to build a killer wardrobe on a budget, how easy this really is, how to properly use color and complexion. And yeah, I'm going to go deep on that kind of stuff. The 5 things that I think every man really should have in his wardrobe. And honestly, if you just have these few things, it doesn't matter your archetype, your tribe, you are going to at least be dressed well to the point where people think he's not an idiot. As I knock my desk over, he's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing. Okay. I'm going to teach you how to figure out things like your tribe, how to figure out stuff like your archetype, and how to be able to navigate all of that. I'm also going to teach you how to dress according to your different body types, because not everybody is built like a model, whether that's like a Men's Fitness magazine model or like one of those skinny effete GQ models. We're not all built that same way. And so I'm going to teach you how to dress according to that. We're going to get into all of that kind of stuff. Okay. So I know that sounds like a lot to digest, right? But I promise we're going to go through it. And yes, I will have a recording of this after for you guys. But like I said, make sure that you've got everything turned off as far as like your notifications, all of that. You're ready to dive in. You're ready to go. And we're going to do Q&A at the end, because my goal at the end is for you to be able to sit here and type back at me in that chat box and go, wow, this is really easy. Okay, I feel like I'm ready to get started. I now have the information to go and actually make this happen for myself. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about me. And again, not because that necessarily matters to you, but just because I want to tell you what my own experience has been so that I can help you guys get there. And so you can understand that I know where you guys are. I've been at the beginner phase. I've been at the Gentledork phase. I've been at this somewhat competent phase. And obviously I've been able to get through all of those. And so I am an author. I've written a book called The Appearance of Power. I've been a coach for almost a decade. I've helped hundreds of guys with their style, whether that's on really small budgets or really massive budgets, guys who are young, guys who are old, kind of the whole spectrum. I'm a father and a husband. We just found out that we're having our 4th, and it's going to be a little girl. And I'm obviously super excited, but kind of overwhelmed by that too, because I mean, we've already got 2 girls, and I grew up in a house with 4 boys and my baby sister. So I have no idea what the crap I'm going to do with 3 girls. And last of all, as far as what's applicable to this, I am a former style nerd. I'll tell you guys again, I have been through that Gentledork phase, and thank you for the congratulations. That's awesome. Okay. So let me walk you through how committing to improving your image can change your life. Okay. I hate these photos. I'm actually kind of I'm kind of irritated. So my buddy Josh helped me out with getting this set up, and I'm a little bit bugged that he actually used these photos because they're kind of embarrassing for me. The one over on the left here with like the brown bandana thing, this was back in my like emo punk kind of days. In fact, this was taken at my first acoustic show in this like crappy venue in downtown Salt Lake. I played maybe a three song set, and it was all this like whiny stuff. Anyway, I thought I was killing it at that point. I had like the long hair, and I had this this bandana thing going on. It may be a little bit hard to tell, but even in the photo, I've got like this striped sport coat that I'm pretty sure my mom picked up for me for like $25 at Target. Okay. I was trying at least, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. You had a professor that looked like me on the left. Okay, I was trying at least. And a lot of you guys can skip this phase. You're not even starting this bad because I've always been at least someone who tried. But this cost me. At the time that this was taken, I was actually working for a financial institution. I was doing loans. And I remember my boss pulling me into her office one day and telling me, I can't do this anymore, Tanner. I'm going to have to pay for you to go get your hair cut because you don't look professional. And I mean, that was kind of a blow. And for me, that really kind of set things off where it's like, okay, I'm 23. I want to start dating more seriously. I want to really like, I'm getting close to finishing school. I want to get more serious about a career. I can't dress the same way that I did in high school. I needed to make a change. Have you guys ever felt that way? Have you felt like you still are dressing like you did when you were in high school or you were in college, and that you can't dress that way anymore because it's not actually who you are? Give me just a quick yes in the chat box if you've ever felt that way, where it's like, this is not who I am anymore. This is not an accurate representation of who I am. This is who I used to be. And I don't hate that guy. But if I continue to look like this, then I'm going to hurt my prospects and I'm going to hurt my potential moving forward. Okay, starting to feel that way. Yes, in college now. Yes. Okay, good. So you guys get it, right? Oh, man, it sucks. Good. That's why you're here. I love it. Okay, so logically, or at least in my own stupid head logically, as I was thinking, okay, well, I need to look more professional. I need to look more respectable. That's when I moved over into the photo that you see here on the right, which is me wearing a bow tie and a vest, and I've got my hair all parted. And then, you know, just a little bit in my defense, this was right when Mad Men was starting to get really big. And so everybody was kind of gravitating that way anyway. But man, I thought I was killing it with this. In fact, this photo, I think that my wife took this photo like maybe a year or even a year and a half after I had started writing Masculine Style. So I had already like decided I was well versed enough in this that I was ready to like start writing a blog and start teaching people. And now I look back at this almost a decade later and just go, man, this sucks. Because this is cosplay. This is me dressing up like a character from the 60s and thinking that this is good style. And it is. It's cosplay. It's a costume. Okay. So I have been here. I want you guys to skip this because I don't want you to look back and just go, man, what was I thinking? Or even worse, to look at you one day and go, what am I thinking? It's bad enough to look back 10 years ago. It's even worse to wake up one morning and go, man, I look really stupid. So I'm going to help you guys skip that. Okay, because this is the new me, right? I'm comfortable. I love what I'm wearing. I'm authentic. I get compliments all the time. I know that I'm a modestly stylish guy. As my buddy Josh pointed out, I'm dressed to kill with a handgun. Don't actually tell anybody because I do have a handgun in this photo, but that's not really here or there, right? Anyway, the point is, you can have good style and not have it feel like a costume. You can have good style and not have it feel like you are overly formal, that you always have to be outdressed. You always have to have a tie or a jacket or anything else on. You can do it in a way that is super, super comfortable. Okay. It's going to be so easy. And here's the thing that happened for me as far as my own experience with it. And this is what I want to have happen for you guys. I had people, they just started finally taking me seriously. My boss no longer was treating me like I didn't know anything. It's actually small on my back, not appendix carry, Jeff. My boss didn't feel like she had to babysit me anymore. My clients, like when they were coming up and working with me at the desk, there was no longer this like having to really establish my authority, my credibility. Like, why is this punk kid going to be the one to decide to give me a loan? My dating life improved massively. And then even as I started to move out of the Gentledork phase, you know, my wife married me when I was in that phase. And now that I've gone out of that, the amount of respect, the nature of our relationship has improved. And what's really cool is it's not just her, other women treat me differently. And I don't really care what you think, whether you're pursuing them or not. There's something that is just confidence inducing about whether it's a server or it's a cashier or it's a girl at the gym or somebody else who can just treat you like you're not this like weird dude, but can actually come up. Oh, those are cool shoes. Where'd you pick those up? And I got to tell you guys, I get opened by more women just because of my style, and they ask me about stuff all the time. It does so much of the heavy lifting for me that part of me wishes that I would have figured it out long before I ever actually got married. Anyway, the point is not only did it have all this to do with the way that other people were looking at me and interacting with me, but the big thing is that it changed my whole outlook on life, because I started taking myself more seriously. I started seeing that I had untapped potential and that I was able to reach that in one arena. So why can I not reach that in other arenas? I can tell you guys that all of the good things that have come from my life started out because I decided to be intentional about my style. Now, that may not be the case for you. I hope that that's not the case for you. I hope that there are other things in your life that you were already intentional about. But whatever that is, you recognize that being intentional about one thing can be a huge benefit, and it leads to intentionality in everything. And if you're not being intentional about one arena, then it's this dead weight that can drag everything else down. So whether you're just getting started with your own self-optimization path, or you feel like you're already making a ton of progress, your style can either hold you back or it can help you get going even further on that. Now, if you're here, you probably want some of these things, and this may be that you want any of it, or you may already have a lot of it and you just want a little bit more. Okay. You probably want more respect and acknowledgement from your peers and authorities. I mean, as gouch as it is to say it, as men, we want higher status, period. You can't argue with it. We can kind of ignore it or pretend that we don't want it, but we do. We want higher status. We want better opportunities, whether that's for raises, promotions, better jobs if you're employed, or if you're like me and you run your own business, you want to cast a wider net. You want higher caliber clients. You want to be able to improve your business in other ways. You want women, whether you're married, dating, whether it's in a sexual context or it's just a normal human interaction context, you want to be able to have women treat you better. And ultimately what you want is to have a powerful social presence. And yeah, arguably one that could even make somebody like Steve McQueen green with envy. Now, what's cool is McQueen is one of these guys. I love his stuff, and I love kind of how stoic and how classically cool he was. And yes, it was a lot more than just his style, but Steve McQueen wouldn't have been Steve McQueen if he wasn't killing it with his clothing. And you guys have experienced this, right? I mean, think about how you feel when you're wearing, maybe it's a custom suit. Maybe you're not a suit guy, but you're wearing like your favorite boots or your favorite shirt or something else, versus when you're just scrubbing it or slumming it on a Saturday. I mean, you feel better, right? And what I can do for you guys, what the goal is tonight, is to help you get to the point where you can feel that on point, that dialed every day, wearing the right things, as opposed to only when you've got that like one special outfit that's going for you. Okay, you guys ready to get into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing? Let's tackle some of your questions that you guys have asked me. Let's go through and let's dive in deep on this stuff. Now, the biggest thing, the biggest myth that most guys experience as they, especially you guys who are at the very beginning phase, that they come up against is, I shouldn't care about this stuff because only gay guys and girls care about how they look. And man, we live in such a weird time, because that from like the 1970s to maybe about like 7 or 8 years ago, you could argue that potentially that was the case. But oh man, if we go back historically, men have always cared about how they look. And we have always used our image to be able to project our masculinity, to be able to gauge whether or not the other person that we're with is friend or foe, if he's formidable. Anything. Yeah, only dudes who struggle with women would make that justification. You're totally right, Tash. But the point is, a lot of guys do. We've convinced ourselves, or we've let the world convince us, that it's only for gay guys or for women to care about. And I'm going to give you guys some examples of how totally bogus and erroneous that assumption is. And honestly, what I want to do is give you permission to care, because you should care, because it matters. All right. So this hat here, it's called a Boss of the Plains hat. All right. This is something that was invented by Stetson back in like the mid 1800s. And yeah, it took cues from hats that had been around even longer. But this was the hat that was there and part of like forging the American West, crossing the plains, doing all of this. And this was the most ubiquitous piece of headwear that existed, especially in America, for the longest time. Now, the way that these hats were designed, the way that they came out of the box, was that they had this very tall and then rounded crown, and there was no creasing, there were no folds, it had a wide brim, and it just came out flat like that. This is the way it came out of the box for everybody. And that was just how it was. But here's the thing. Men, like we do, use our appearance as ways to signal things. And so this Boss of the Plains hat gradually started to evolve with just very simple things, like the way that you would pinch and crease it, the way that you would maybe fold the brim or roll it, or was it a snapback or a snap brim or anything else like that, all this stuff. It started to become a way to signal things. And I mean, seriously, signal things. It got to the point with these hats. You can look at this one that's kind of up here on the right that's got like the 4 folds in it. Do you automatically assume like a Mountie or a park ranger, right? It's the same hat. It is the same hat as what I showed you in the previous slide. The only difference is the way that it's been creased. And because of those creases, you now assume like Smokey the Bear or a park ranger or Canadian Mountie or something like that, because it's that mental association, because those are the only people, that's the only tribe that was using it that way. You guys, this got so specific that you could literally tell not only the state that a rancher or a cowboy was from, but even the particular ranch that he worked on, just because of the way that his hat was pinched and the creases that were in it. And I mean, if you can think of anybody who these guys who would say, you know, it's only gay guys or girls who care what they look like, if there's anybody who they would like typify as the top of masculinity, it would be these rugged individualist cowboys. And these cowboys knew enough about communicating who they were with their clothing that they would still pinch their hats in a certain way so that it would actually communicate to other people, I'm from this ranch, I'm from this state, this is what I do. These guys cared. You guys are allowed to care. Let's go back even further. This is a statue of Caesar. You see what he's got on his head up there? That's a crown of laurel leaves. Now, this has been used in a bunch of different cultures. The Greeks used it as a way to signal competence or high levels of athleticism in basically athletics and competition. But the Romans, they used these as a symbol of victory for military exploits. Now, can you imagine somebody telling Caesar, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's a cool wreath and all, but are you trying to swoop dudes with that? And he would honestly, the value and the meaning of this is so much more than just sexual. It's so much more than just attraction. It's so much more than just trying to look pretty. Everything that he can communicate with just that laurel leaf is saying, I can dominate you because I have dominated others, and you will take me seriously, because if not, there will be blood on the streets, right? That is heavy stuff that can all be communicated with one little laurel leaf crown. Really, really intense stuff. And obviously, this is not something that we just saw historically. This is the kind of stuff that we still continue to see this day. Tell me that Jason Statham doesn't care what he looks like, or that he's weak or a fet, or that he's trying to be pretty. Tell me that Conor McGregor, that dude absolutely cares what he looks like, and he leverages his appearance immensely and so masterfully when it comes to accomplishing his goals both in and out of the ring. You've got guys like Odell Beckham Jr., LeBron James. These are men who absolutely care what they look like. And for the majority of the United States and Western culture, these are the kind of guys that people would say typify, or at least are good representations of masculinity. So I want you guys to think about this, especially while I take a drink here real quick. Type in the chat box for me. Do you know, think of either somebody now who you look up to, or at least if not now, somebody that you looked up to as a kid that you thought they were just like, that guy is a man. And if I could be like that guy, I would be the man. Type his name in there for me. Tell me who that is for you. Okay, Bond. Who else we got, guys? Bond. Eastwood. Rockhold, Paul Newman. Still Statham. Yep, Statham's a great example. Bond, Will Smith, James Dean, Gregory Peck, Tom Hardy, Ryan Reynolds, Indiana Jones, Bobby Brown, awesome, Daniel Craig. Okay, Beckham, great. Okay, as you guys see each other typing in these things, lately Jack Donovan, awesome. You guys can think of what each one of these men looks like, right? As you think about every single one of these guys, they had great style. Every single one of them did. They dressed in a way. These are not guys who were dressed like the dude in The Big Lebowski. They're not dressed like that, right? These are men who were able to leverage their appearance in order to help benefit their masculinity. It wasn't something that their style came at the expense of their masculinity. It was something that helped benefit it. Each and every single one of these guys. And that's not something that's only reserved for celebrities, for conquerors, or for rock stars, or for, you know, athletes or anybody else. You guys can do this too. That's what's so cool, is you can turn your style into something that takes you from wherever you are in life at a 4 or at an 8, and it can take you up another notch. That's just like your opinion, man. Awesome. I love the Lebowski reference. Okay. So I hope by now you guys at least feel like you have permission to care, and not only care, but to care deeply, because this does matter. And this is very much rooted in your masculinity. All right, so let's talk about myth number 2. It's too expensive to dress well. How often have you heard that? How many times have you even told yourself that? Because again, going back to this idea of the Gentledork phase, dressing well means I have to dress up. I have to not only buy suits, but I have to buy nice suits, and I got to buy expensive clothes. And yes, there are benefits to buying nice clothes. I've worn cheap clothes. I've worn expensive clothes. I've worn irrationally expensive clothes, and I've worn high quality expensive clothes. And I will tell you that high quality expensive stuff is worth it. It's fantastic. Buy the best you can afford. But that is not the only way to dress well. It's not. You can do it on the cheap. I'll tell you guys that what I'm wearing tonight. Okay. This Henley, this was from J. Crew Factory. It was $35. The jeans that I have on, it's a good pair of dark wash jeans, also from J. Crew, probably like $40. And then my shoes, I've got these, all right? My Stan Smiths, I think I picked these up for like $50 at Foot Locker. So all in, I'm at like, what, $150? And you guys, this is my personal uniform. Unless I'm doing something very specific, this is kind of what I wear every day. And in fact, I'll tell you guys that I told you that there are a few things that I think that every man can wear. And if you really want to level up your style, not to the point where you're super expressive, you're super unique, but you never look like an idiot and you always look like you're well put together, I will tell you that a good pair of classic sneakers, so something like the Stan Smith, something that is made with a classic material like suede or leather, and it's got an old school silhouette, even a pair of like Chuck Taylors, you do that. You do a good pair of slim, not super skinny, not super relaxed, not super long, not super short, just well-fitting dark wash jeans. You do a good simple belt, and honestly, you can pick that up basically anywhere. And then you do a Henley. Those few things, and man, you are going to look so good. And that's it. Honestly, if there's nothing else, especially you beginners, if you guys are content with doing just that, you can just walk out here and just go do those things. But obviously, I want you to do better than that, because that is just the beginning. That's just where you look handsome, but you're not really expressing yourself. You're not necessarily getting super authentic. You're not really telling a very visual story. You're not necessarily very interesting, but at least you don't look like an idiot. Okay? So you can start with just those. If I were to say that there are 5 things that you need to have, just a simple basic outfit, just go with that. That's really easy. All right? Now, let's talk about fit and how this is something that's super applicable too, because it doesn't matter if you're wearing, there's a reason I chose all 3 of these photos. Henley jeans, right? Our basic uniform. And it doesn't matter how you're built. It doesn't matter how expensive it is. I'll tell you that the green one and the blue one are from Target. Those are probably $20. That gray one, that's from the Gap. That's probably $45, $50. So again, not super expensive stuff here. But just with these things, irrespective of your build, you can do it. Now, there's a couple of things I want you guys to notice, and this is where we're going to talk a little bit about dressing to your body type, okay? Let's talk a little bit about the fit that these 3 gentlemen have going on for them, okay? So we're going to talk, if you're on the skinny side, I want you to pay attention to what this model's got going on here. You don't have to have this bad body posture. You don't have to be all buttoned up and tucked in so it looks safe. You don't have to have the dumb floppy hair or anything. You look more masculine than that. But even if you're built this way, this style can be really good for you. Now, I want you to notice that the shoulders fit really well on here for him, okay? The shoulder seams fit really well. It's not like it's drooping all the way over onto his arms. There's a decent amount of fit through the chest. The length is really good. You notice that it stops at about the middle of the rise in his pants. It's not hanging down to his knees, and it's not so short that it's coming up to his belt. And it's slim. You can see his shape, but it's not hugging him skin tight, okay? So, good fit in the shoulders, good length, and slim without being overly skinny. Those are your principles for good fit, and we'll see it across the board, all right? Here we go again with this bigger guy. Good fit through the shoulders. The seams look great. Yeah, he's got a little bit more girth on him, and so he needs more forgiveness in the waist. But even still, this can look flattering on him. And again, it's not super short down through the, or it's not super long down in the length either. You bigger guys, one of the things that you need to be really careful of is you have the tendency to want to wear bigger clothing because it's going to hide the fact that you're overweight. But I'll tell you guys, the truth is it doesn't hide that you're overweight, and it actually compounds the problem, because then not only do you look like you're overweight, you also look like you're sloppy. Whereas at least if you're doing something like this, you are, yes, just as visibly overweight as you would be if you're wearing XXL stuff or stuff that was super massive on you, but at least you look like you're disciplined, and at least you look like you have your act together in that regard. And so don't think that just because you wear baggy stuff, the same thing for scrawny guys. If you wear, you know, let's go back to this guy. If he were to wear stuff that's way too big on him, he thinks that it may make him look like he's bigger and that we can't tell. We can tell. You're still scrawny, but then you look like you're trying to hide it, and you actually end up looking smaller, more dainty, more effeminate than you would be otherwise. Okay. So again, same principles, really good fit through the shoulders, good fit through the chest, a little bit more mercy and forgiveness through the waist, and then the right length on it. All right. We're even seeing this with guys who have good muscles. Okay. Somebody like this, you know, obviously it would be fantastic if we could all look like this. I would love to look like this, and I'm working on it. I hope you guys are working on it too. Here's the problem that muscular guys run into is they finally get to this point where they're in great shape and they're just like, yes, I've arrived. And now everybody has to know it. And so a lot of muscular guys start to get to the point where they get really, really tight on everything. And the problem with that is it makes them look like they're one-dimensional. Okay. It makes them look like the only thing that they have going for them is the fact that they're in shape. It's their low body fat percentage. And so again, the same principles apply here. Good tight fit through the shoulders. You can see some development in the chest, not too long, and some forgiveness in the waist. And the reason why that's so helpful for him is because now he doesn't look like he's saying, hey, you guys know I got abs, right? You guys know you can see my abs, right? We're good. Okay. Right. Okay. It's just saying, yeah, you know, I'm in good shape, and that happens to be one of the many things that I have going for him in my life. He doesn't have, I know, I would love to have that problem too. But trust me, the guys who do have that problem, there's a reason why guys who are well built get the stereotype of being shallow or superficial or vain, and part of it is because they lean too heavily into that, especially with their clothing and their appearance, rather than being able to demonstrate that this is one of many of their features, or one of the many good things that they have going for them. Okay, so that's good basic info for you guys getting started on fit. Again, if you guys can just get those simple things, good tight fit through the chest and shoulders, not super tight, but just good and simple there, not too short, not too long, and then a little bit of forgiveness in the waist, and you guys are going to be golden. And again, especially you just do it with simple stuff. It doesn't have to be too dressed up. You'll nail it. But let's take it a step further. All right, this is one most of you guys have been waiting for. Let's talk about color and contrast. I'm going to grab a drink real quick because this is going to be a minute. While I'm doing that, tell me, has this been helpful for you guys so far? What has been the most helpful so far? Well, I, don't chew rocks here on my throat. Good. Glad it's been helpful. Visuals, good. Yeah, style is definitely a visual medium. Good. I'm glad the fit stuff has been helpful. Awesome. Good. Good. I hope that this has been actionable stuff. Okay, let's jump in and let's talk about some coloring stuff, okay? Now, there are basically three different contrast types, okay? And it basically, contrast has to do with how much of a variation there is between your skin and your hair. And that's your beard, your eyebrows, your hair, all that kind of stuff. Now, some guys don't have too intense of a contrast either way. They're called moderate. That's me. I don't have super light skin, nor do I have super dark or super light hair. I'm just kind of normal. Normal is, however you want to define that, whatever. The point is, guys, if you have a moderate contrast like I do, where you've got fairly light to modestly toned skin and your hair is neither super dark or super light, coloring, as far as contrast goes, we can basically kind of wear whatever we want. It's really nice, but it's also not that great because it doesn't automatically eliminate stuff. we're going to talk about the guys who fall in the extremes, whether that's the muted or the high contrast stuff. Okay. So if you're built like, if you're designed, built, whatever, like Daniel Craig, where he's got light skin and light hair, you guys are going to have what's called a muted complexion, or you're going to have muted contrast. And basically what that means is if you wear colors that are too bright, or you wear colors that when they're paired against each other, there's too much variation between them, what it's going to do is it's going to overwhelm you. And people are not going to be paying attention to you. They're going to be paying attention to the colors. So if you look at the photo on the left where he's got the blue jacket and this bright red scarf, you're not really looking at his face, are you? The visual focus of that photo is the scarf. That's what we see as the clothing. Whereas the photo on the right, where he's got a light colored suit with a light colored tie, there's not a lot of color variation, and there's not a huge amount of color variation between the white shirt and the gray tie. This is what's going to be super flattering on him. Okay. Very, very light contrast. Now, the thing that I want to tell you guys is that when it comes to these rules of contrast, they will always be superseded by the context of the environment in which you find yourself. You will see Daniel Craig when he's dressed as Bond wearing a black suit with a white shirt and a black tie. That is as high contrast as it gets. Okay. Black and white opposite each other. That's as high contrast as it gets. But the context of wearing it at a black tie event or doing it as James Bond, those kind of things, that's always going to supersede the fact that that may not be the most flattering. So yes, this stuff matters. It is super important, but the communication, the context, understanding those principles is always going to be way more important than this. And this is where a lot of the Gentledorks get caught in the weeds. They just think, well, as long as I got my coloring right, as long as my fit's good, then I'm going to look handsome no matter what. And that's not the case. You need to know the environment. You need to know your tribe. You need to know your archetypes. You need to know all of that. But again, we'll go a little bit heavier on this stuff because it does matter. So for you guys who have a muted contrast, all right, you want to stay with colors that are not super saturated, they're not super intense, and you want to stay with colors that are not that far from each other on the color wheel. Basic principles, basic rule of thumb, really simple to follow. If you are doing colors, it's going to be things that are in like pastels or they're dusty or stuff like that. All right. Now, for you guys who are on the opposite end, where you have a really high contrast, light hair and light skin and really, really dark hair, you want to avoid the opposite. So this photo of him over here on the left, I should remember this dude's name. I even thought about that today as I was getting prepped for this. I know he was in like The Hobbit and he's in a bunch of other stuff now. Anyway, if you remember his name, type it in the chat box for me. Anyway, this outfit of him on the left, Daniel Craig would kill it in this because it's so low contrast. But with him, notice how it makes his skin look just kind of sickly and almost like it's got like this kind of like pasty, like slug-like almost complexion thing. Luke Evans, thank you. That's right. Thing going to it. Whereas over on the right, he still has that same white shirt on, or the same color of that white shirt on, and it's still not a super dark suit, but he's got that power in that red tie. And what that does is that now works with his dark hair. So he's got the power in the red tie, the dark hair, and that's going to frame his face. His complexion looks better. He looks healthier. You're actually paying attention to his features. He looks more powerful. He looks more masculine. He looks healthier because he's using his contrast the way that he's supposed to. So for you guys who have really light skin or really dark hair, or for you guys who are like these gentlemen here, for you guys who are African-American, you guys are high contrast too. Notice the gentleman on the left, very muted contrast, light saturation on the suit with a blue shirt and then a blue tie. You're not really seeing much when it comes to his features. But for the guy that's over here on the right, really powerful contrast with heavy saturation with that jacket. And then he's got the white and the black stripes that's going on in there. There's a lot of contrast that's going on. And again, he looks healthier. He looks more vibrant. You're drawn into his presence more so as a result of just that simple stuff. So that should make that really easy with those things. Okay. One more thing I want to teach you guys real quick when it comes to coloring is complexion, warm versus cool. I wasn't actually going to teach this, but I decided I was going to throw this on. Okay, good question, Brad. I'll actually, for you guys who have questions about this stuff, just hold off and I can answer a lot of those. I am going to be doing a Q&A at the end. So just remember those and I'll make sure that we hit those at the end. So ask me those. But I want to teach you guys real quick about warm versus cool, okay? Warm versus cool, the easiest way to be able to tell is all you got to do is you got to look at the veins on the inside of your forearm, okay? If you look at those and they look like they are very like kind of a pure blue, then you have a cooler complexion. If they look like they're fairly green, then you have a warm complexion. Now, you can go as deep down the rabbit hole as you want to. And with some of my clients, what I've actually done is sent them into like a Sephora or a Mac store or somewhere in the mall and said, You know, go talk to one of the makeup girls and have her tell you not only if you're warm or cool, but like what your season and all this other stuff is. And you guys, I don't want you to get caught in the weeds on this, because my own personal uniform, I have a warm complexion, but my own personal uniform, I wear white, blue, gray, brown, and olive green. Okay. Almost 99% of what I wear falls within those same colors. And it makes things super effortless, because I don't have to worry about, well, do I make this orange shirt work with those red things, or how does this all work against each other? I will tell you guys that the more simple you can make your style, the easier it's going to be for you. And this is a good point for you guys who really don't want to work that hard on color. I don't get that jazzed or that excited about it. Some of you guys may not be capable of being good at it. I'm surprised by how many clients I get who come in who are pretty colorblind. Color is not the end all be all of good style. Honestly, white, gray, brown, blue, that's kind of it. Really, if you want to have great style, then you can focus on other things like fit, like what you're communicating, like the material that's being used, like your tribes, your archetypes, all this other stuff that's ultimately way, way, way more important than just color. So yes, it matters if you have a warm complexion or a cool complexion, but not nearly to the point that it's going to override or supersede everything. And if you're like me and you would rather keep things simple, do that, embrace it. And don't let anybody make you think that you have to have a ton of colors to have good style, because you don't. Good style can be so basic. It can be so simple. Now, real quick, for you guys who have a cool complexion, what that means for you is things that are like blacks and grays and pure whites are going to be the most flattering. You guys like me who have a warm complexion, that means that things like browns, ivories, creams, olives, those are going to be more flattering. If you guys want to go deeper on that, we can talk about some of that stuff after, and that's where we'll have to, I'll need to know you guys better to be able to really help you dive deeper on that. Okay. So let's dive into myth number 3. And this is where we're going to move out of the realm of the pure like science of style, fit and color and all that stuff, and move more into the principles of communication and context and what it is that you're actually trying to express. And one of the biggest myths that I continue to see everywhere is that there's an all encompassing approach to style, that there is this idea that good style is this, and that's it. That's all that it is. And it's really not. I'll give you guys an example, okay? Most of the time when guys think of good style, especially the Gentledorks or the guys who are just getting started, they think of 3 things. They think that it has to be more formal, they think that it has to have more pattern, and they think that it has to have more color, which I get that that's why so many of you guys have asked me about fit and color, because that's a normal thing to think that that's what good style consists of. This guy right here, all these photos, it's formal. For the most part, he's got some use of color and pattern, but this is not good style. This is a joke, right? Thank you. I'm glad that you guys agree with me. This is bad, okay? This is aesthetic pedanticism. All he's trying to do is demonstrate to you guys that he's a style dork who's able to, not even judiciously, just unjudiciously, just go crazy with his use of color and pattern and everything else. And he thinks that that makes good style, and it doesn't. It doesn't. And what sucks is that I've been here, other guys have been here. And again, I don't want you guys to have to go through this. So do not think, please, if you don't take anything other than this away from this training, do not think that good style means that it has to be formal, it has to have a ton of color, or it has to have a ton of pattern, because it does not. It does not at all. Good style really comes down to being able to understand things like good style can be formal, or good style can be casual. And you know what? As I show you guys all these examples, I want you to understand that you don't have to like all of these. You don't. Good style is also very polarizing, okay? Good style is something that actively attracts the people who are like you and actively repels the people who are not like you. So good style is something that is very, very polarizing. I think that good style is something that can be both formal or casual, like we're seeing in these. Good style is something that can be more rugged. It's also something that can be more refined, all right? Good style is something that can be very simple, or it can be something that has a lot of layers and can be very complex. Or good style is something that can really express a lot of physical masculinity, or it can express more social masculinity, all right? There's a lot of different ways that we can go through and read through all of this. And ultimately, this is where being able to understand things like your archetypes and your tribes come in. Now, I want to be able to do this in a way that's helpful for you guys. but I also know that we've already been on this for 45 minutes and I've given you a fire hose of information. So I want to move through this in a way that's helpful. So let's talk a little bit about archetypes real quick. The biggest thing that I want you guys to understand when it comes to your archetypes is that your style should reflect who you are internally. Okay. Whether what you should not be doing is going through photos like this and saying, okay, I like this guy on the right here. I like the denim jacket that he's layering it with this waxed cotton jacket or this Barber, and this is really cool. Also, I work in a bank, so how do I make this work for me? I'm a really refined guy, or I'm an IT guy. How do I make this work for me? Or I don't want you to look at this guy that's over here at the beginning and you really like the suiting and you like this kind of stuff, but you work on an oil field or you work in construction, and that this is the kind of stuff that you can't make that work. It doesn't work with your archetypes. It doesn't work with your tribes. It doesn't work with your environment or anything else. This is the kind of stuff that the first thing you need to understand when it comes to your archetypes is that good style is an outward expression of who you are internally. Okay. That's the only way to dress well. That is the only way. Otherwise, you're just chasing fashion. You're just chasing trends. That's the only way to make it work. Okay. So your archetypes, and they will be mixed. You will be primarily heavily into one, whether that's rugged, refined, or rakish, but you will have elements of all three. And that's really where good style comes in, is knowing how to blend all three of them, not just like cartoonishly leaning into I'm 100% rugged or I'm 100% rakish or anything else, but it's the blending of all three. And where it really comes from is, okay, maybe you are super rugged. You work outside, you are kind of rough and tumble, you enjoy the physical world, but you like this kind of fine suiting. So you either A, find environments where you can wear that stuff and enjoy it, or B, you take the time to figure out what it is that you like about it and then determine how you can apply that so that it actually works with your own style, your own archetypes, your own tribes. Because these tactics, while they are fantastic, are not the only way to execute on a strategy. All right. And so you being able to execute on the strategy in your own way, your strategy with different tactics, that is so effective. And I wish that that's something that I would have known as I had gotten started. That is the best way to get over the Gentledork phase. And so know that your archetypes are the groundwork for everything, and knowing who you are, and also being willing to accept the fact that that may change and that your style needs to evolve as that changes. That's going to do you guys so much good. Now, when it comes to tribes, a lot of you guys are asking, how do you find who your tribes are? And a lot of it's almost too bad that we're not all in high school, because that's really easy, where it's like, okay, well, do I hang out with like the skater kids or the jocks or the mathletes or the goth kids or anything? It's really easy when you're in this very like limited, superficial kind of environment. But ultimately, the principle comes down to the same thing. What's your identity based in? Okay. Whatever your identity is based in, this is where your tribes are going to be. So that may be your family, that may be what you do for a living, that may be your philosophical, political, or religious beliefs, it may be the part of the world that you're from, it may be something as far as your musical taste or your hobbies or anything else like that. And I will tell you that you can go through and you can look at all of those things, because none of those things are bad as far as having an identity somewhat based in them. And all of us derive our identities to some extent from those kinds of things. And so finding your tribes and knowing what they are means you start with those groups where your identity comes from, the people that you identify with, the people that you want to be around, the things that you enjoy doing that other people enjoy doing too. And then you try and determine which of those is the most important. My identity primarily comes from my religious beliefs. Secondarily, it comes from my family. And then as a tertiary environment, it comes down to things like what I do for a living, being part of this like masculine component of Twitter and this self-improvement environment and all that kind of stuff. And so my tribes, those being my three primary tribes, that's where my clothing comes in. And yes, it comes down to, what do I like to do for hobbies? I like to go camping, so I wear stuff that's more rugged, or this is the kind of music that I'm into, or these are the sports that I engage in, or this is the kind of lifting that I like to do. And all that stuff can come into play. But if you really want to know how to lock down your tribes, find out which ones are the ones from which you derive your primary identity, move them down and list a priority, and then work from there to be able to establish what's going to be the most important thing for you. Okay? Again, I know that that's a lot, and I know that unfortunately that can be something that sounds a little bit nebulous, but the point is that it is, because it's so personal. It really is. There's not a one size fits all. And I want you guys to take the principle of knowing those things. Your archetype is who you are, and it builds out that way. And then your tribes are where you have these associations. Okay. Antonio, remember that question so that you can ask me that when we come back in on that. Okay. All right. The last thing I want to teach you guys tonight before we start talking about how I can really help you guys out is this idea of visual entropy. All right. Look at this photo from the 90s. Do you guys, I remember this phase. I had a pair of Jenkos. All right. I had a pair of Jenkos, and I was very much a part of this like whole crowd. And one of the things that a lot of men are really worried about when it comes to style is this idea of we don't want to jump on bandwagons because we'll regret where we were, or we'll look back in 10 years and go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Or people may laugh at us. It may be polarizing or anything else. And so we just play it safe. As long as we're not dressing totally awful, then we're good. But the problem is if you don't risk dressing totally awful, then you also don't risk dressing incredibly well. You're just kind of playing it mediocre. But here's the other thing that's the problem is when it comes to trends, you don't get to control where those come from. And you don't get to control the life cycle that those are on. Now, we can think about very specific trends, and we all have these visions in our head of what the 70s or the 80s or the 90s look like, let alone what things looked like 100 years ago or 200 years ago. But we can even focus on what a general life cycle is for a person. And it's easy to think, well, I can just avoid this when it comes to casual stuff or very specifically tribal stuff. But I want you to look at this even from a suiting context. Suiting, the one thing that's supposed to be constant and hasn't changed from the 40s, is kind of all the style dorks like to put it. But look at this. This is from the Dream Team. My wife and I just finished watching the People versus O.J. Simpson on Netflix, which fantastic series, by the way. And obviously, I was kind of geeking out about the style and everything, especially because this was in like, what, 95, 96. And you guys, if you were to wear suits like this today, if you were to, if you were an established man and you had suits in 1995 and you were to decide, well, I'm just going to bust those out of the closet, I'm going to wear those because the suit's a suit and it doesn't matter, you would not look great. And not only would you not look great, you wouldn't even look neutral. You would look awful. Okay? Style is entropy. You cannot find timeless style. You can't. It doesn't exist. And that sucks because it means that you always have to be putting some level of effort into it. Now, what I'll tell you is that the initial effort to get to a point where your style is good, it doesn't have to stay there. You can back off once your style is good, and it's very easy to maintain a level of effort in order to be able to make things work. But you cannot think that I've established my wardrobe today, and so I'm good for the next 10 to 20 years. It does not work like that, because even with very classic, slow-moving things like suits, yeah, these don't have a 1 or a 2 year cycle. These have a 10 or a 15-year cycle, but there is still a cycle. Your style will always be subject to entropy, and the only way to combat entropy is to continue to work forward, to continue to make progress. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. All right? So what I want you guys to understand with that is that that's not a bad thing. It's so easy to get to maintenance mode. It's so much easier than you think to get to the point where, yeah, my style is good. I don't have to think about it that hard. And then as my life evolves, or as the world around me evolves, then I understand this well enough that I can make those incremental changes as I need to. Yeah, what is the point of some of those buttons, right? I mean, a lot of that was just what was demonstrated as far as being double-breasted. And notice that they're all wearing double-breasted stuff. We don't even think in that regard, or even the way that I have a few double-breasted suits, but they're not buttoned up the same way. And so it's not all the same. So again, it goes backwards. It works against you. And so unless you're putting in active, albeit minimal effort to maintain things, your style is going to devolve, and it's going to cost you. It's going to hurt you. Again, doesn't mean that you always have to be moving forward, but I will tell you guys that it is so much easier to move forward when you know what you're doing. Because here's what sucks. Let's say that all these guys hired a stylist, all right? They just picked some like Hollywood stylist to come and dress them. They would have to pay that person to come back every 6 months, every year, every 5 years, something else like that, to do this for them again and again and again. Or maybe they didn't and they just got lucky, and everything that they wore after that really sucked. The point is if you don't develop this skill set for yourself, then the fact that that entropy exists means that you may get it good now because you're lucky or because you paid somebody to do that, but you're probably not going to get lucky again. And man, I don't want you guys to have to pay somebody again and again and again and again in order to keep your style up to date and not deal with that visual entropy. I want you guys to develop the skill set so that you can do this for yourselves and not only avoid all the negatives, but reap all the benefits that come from this. Okay, so who wants to do this? Who's ready after going through all of this that I've taught you? Who wants to actually is feeling like, okay, I'm ready to take this to the next level. I am actually ready to turn my style into something that is an asset for me. Just type a 1 in there for me if you feel like I'm ready to act on this. I'm sick of wasting my time thinking about it. I'm ready to move forward. Awesome. Tom, Justin, Ron, Jonathan. Excellent. Good. Good. I'm excited to hear that. Okay. How many of you guys feel like you can see yourselves actually making some big upgrades in the next few weeks? I mean, because what I don't want you to do is think, okay, well, I'm ready to do this, but this is going to take a couple of years. How many of you guys, again, continue to give me a 1, feel like that you can not only do this, but you can see like within a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks tops, that you can feel like, okay, I'm like really moving forward this. I'm ready to do this. Okay. Give me a 1 if you're feeling that. Awesome. Awesome. Good. I love that. Okay. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. All right. The first way, this is the way that I did it. This is the way that most guys do it. And again, this has to do with the fact that information out there is free. You can try and figure all this out on your own. Okay. There's a couple downsides with that. You can spend thousands of dollars on clothes. And I've done that myself. I kind of get pissed off when I think about how much money I've spent on clothes that never really like made it outside of my closet. Okay. You can do that. You can also go through kind of the awkward growing pains. I actually love that a couple of you guys, or at least one of you guys said, yeah, I'm ready to go in and I'm ready to make the mistakes and kind of learn how to do this. Because here's the thing is if you do it by yourself, then there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be a lot of wasted money. There's going to be a lot of wasted time. There's going to be a lot of wasted energy. And yes, you can get there, but you have to put in a lot into it in order to be able to get there. And that sucks, especially because here's the thing that's really frustrating about style. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of guys don't actually actively try and improve it is you can't improve it privately. This is a very public growing curve. All right. You put this on your body and you go out the door and people see you, which means that they see your victories and they see your losses. And so the risk and the reward, the costs of making mistakes and the benefits, the rewards of really nailing it, everything goes up higher. So again, a lot of guys play it safe. So you can do it that way where guys are laughing at you because you screwed up, or you're feeling like they're laughing at you because you screwed up, even though you didn't really do it. And you're dealing with the self-consciousness and I'm kind of dressed up like a monkey or anything else. You can do it that way. Legitimately, you can. A lot of guys have. I did it myself. Or you can take number 2, which is a better way. And with this way, it doesn't take a matter of years. You can get it figured out within the next month by simply going through a system and following the instructions of someone, me, who's done this for hundreds of guys. And I can give you a program. I will give you a program that's going to get you through this. And what's so cool is not only will it make it applicable for you now, it's going to guarantee that you look awesome now, but it's also going to develop that skill set for you so that 10 years from now, or 30 years from now, or 60 years from now, you're still going to know how to do this so that you don't ever fall into that visual entropy because you're always able to stay out ahead of things and able to make this work for you. Not only that, but you can do it so that you also have like-minded men who are there with you, who are either on the same journey at the same pace or that they're a little bit further ahead and they know the growing pains, they know the frustrations, they know the potential pitfalls, and they can help you out as you go through with it. So if you guys are interested in option number 2, that is what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. That's my Project Your Power program. Okay. Now, what's cool about this is that this is something that is just as applicable for you beginners. And like we talked about at the very beginning, if you want to take this and skip the whole Gentledork phase, if you want to skip spending thousands of dollars, you want to skip all the frustration, the trial and error, the embarrassment, all that kind of stuff, this is perfect for you guys because I can do for you in 6 weeks what took me 6 years to do for myself, honestly. If you are somebody who's already made some progress, but you're kind of stuck at competence and you want to move to a better level, then this is also something that's going to be beneficial for you because I'm going to take you from being good with, okay, I look good in a Henley and jeans, but I don't really feel like I'm expressing myself into, okay, my style is nailed. I've got people who are approaching me. I'm feeling super authentic. I know what to wear regardless of the environment in which I find myself. It's not just like my work wardrobe is really good, but my casual wardrobe sucks. Or yeah, I don't know what to wear in the gym. Or I can get you guys so dialed in every regard so that you are always feeling like you are on top of your game instead of just occasionally feeling like you're on top of your game. So let me break it down for you guys and tell you what this looks like, okay? The core of the program is a 6-week masterclass. And what we do is we establish all of the principles and the stuff that I taught you guys tonight. Very first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through exactly how to dress for your body. I did my best to give you guys some really actionable advice when it comes to things like fit and color, contrast, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, there are things that are very unique and applicable to you. And so within the course, I'm able to give that to you directly and teach you how to be able to manifest for all of that. Even little things like, are my arms disproportionately long? Do I have long legs or a long torso? How does all that kind of stuff look? So we start off with that simple foundation of what your body actually looks like and what it needs in order to be able to look handsome. What's so cool is that most people who do what I do, that's where they stop. And they just say, okay, well, we know what colors look good on you. We know what makes you look handsome. And so now just go buy a suit and you're great. And that's really where we're just getting going because like I've said multiple times tonight, the science of style is important, but it is always overridden and superseded by the context and the communication of what it is that's being expressed. So what we do from there is we go into the heavy lifting with that. Week 2, I'm going to teach you how to blend your archetypes to create your own unique style. What that means is that I'm not only going to tell you what your primary archetype is, you guys get to take an advanced version of the archetype quiz that's going to tell you which one is secondary, which one is tertiary, what the right ratio is between all three of those for you uniquely, so that you can start to blend them in a way that you become a 3-dimensional character instead of like this token 1-dimensional character who's like, oh, I'm Mr. Rugged or, oh, I'm Mr. Refined, but you get to blend all three in a way that actually works for you. Now, what we do is we build off of that because just knowing your archetypes is not enough because there's so many different manifestations of rugged, refined, and rakish. And so the following week, I'm going to teach you guys how to be able to use this with your tribe. And not only things like how they work, but also the primitive status rules and how you can use these things to really get ahead in life. Because dressing your tribe, ultimately what it comes down to is understanding who you are, the people that you're interacting with, what they expect of you, what your position is relative to them, and how to navigate all that. And your clothing is a fundamental tool in all of that. And that's what I do in that week is I teach you guys how to be able to navigate all of that for yourself. Now, what's really cool though, is that that's not enough because I don't care how strongly you identify with one or even many of your tribes. None of us just wants to be a drone that is only demonstrated by, oh, I fit in with this group of people. We want to be able to be unique. We want to be able to be authentic. And we have a blend of different tribes and different philosophies. We have things that we may like or we may gravitate to that have nothing to do with any other group or culture or subculture or anything else. And so on week 4, what I'm going to do is teach you how to be able to inject that in, so that your style becomes something that is very personal, it's super authentic, and it never feels like you're wearing a costume because you feel like you're accurately taking who you are internally and taking it out into the outside world. So those 3 weeks, that's where we get a ton of heavy lifting done. And this is where so many guys are just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, how did I not know this? This is where things become so super easy. And then what I've realized is I've taught this over the years is that's where so much of it comes down to. But there's 2 more things that are really crucial. The second to last week, I'm going to teach you about location and environment. And what that really comes down to is you guys, if you really want to be stylish, you need to be able to leverage your appearance wherever you are, whether you're on vacation in the Arctic or in the Bahamas, or if you're doing a business trip or you're going on a date to the opera or to the pub, whether you're in the gym or you're at work, it doesn't matter where you are. I'm going to give you guys a really simple formula that's going to teach you how to be able to make sure that you're never overdressed, you're never underdressed, you're never outdressed. You're always just dialed in according to what the expectations are and what's going to be best for you within a given environment. And then lastly, as we go through all this, there's effort that goes into it. These are 6 weeks of a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of hard effort. And unless you find that you're actually somebody who this has become kind of a hobby for you, you don't want to maintain that amount of effort. But there's not a right or wrong amount that goes into it. And so I'll teach you how to be able to understand how much you should be putting into your appearance in order to get the right amount that you want out of it. I don't want you putting in too much. I don't want you putting in too little. So you and I are together going to be able to determine what the right amount of that is for you so that you can move forward for the rest of your life, not feeling like you're only getting diminishing returns or you've got more in the tank and you just can't actually put it to practice the way that you want to. So that's the core of what we do. But here's the thing. All that information on its own, it's not enough to actually turn into transformation. You have to put things into practice. And so what I do is I give you for each one of those, and I'm also adding more as we go, I give you guys style cheat sheets, and these are actually assignments, okay? These are ways for you to take the theory of everything that we're talking about as we go through these master classes and turn them into application. So you actually start transforming, you start figuring out what this looks like for you, you take it out of that realm of theory, you put it into practice. And so I'm going to give you one for each one of these weeks. They're simple, they're easy to use. And honestly, a lot of these cheat sheets, I still personally use. The location one, I use whenever I'm traveling somewhere. The body one, when I'm trying to buy stuff and I know I need to look at colors, I still use that one. These are tools that are so effective that even when you get up to a level of mastery, they're still worth having in your toolkit so that you can go back and reference them. Okay, in addition to that, because this is great on its own, but I want you guys to be able to have access, not just access to me, but access to each other. Because tell me, I've seen a lot of guys, and I was this way myself, where a lot of times I would get so kind of nose to the grindstone on what my own problems were that I couldn't tell what other guys were dealing with, or that I couldn't even see what my problems were. And a lot of times if I could see what somebody else was struggling with or somebody else was frustrated by, then it became very easy for me to be able to go, okay. His problem is actually the same thing as my problem. It's just manifesting in a different way. And the fact that he solved it this way means that I can, bam, I got my solution. Okay. There's so much benefit that comes to that. So I want to give you guys access to a private forum, and again, private, like on Slack. And so it's not something that pops up in your Facebook group or anything else like that. It's private on there where you can actually work with like-minded guys. You can experiment with stuff. I'm on there every day talking to the guys who are in there. On top of that, we do Q&As twice a month. A lot of times it's just an open Q&A, and a lot of times, in fact, I'm doing one tomorrow where I'm giving these guys a new cheat sheet, and I'm going to be teaching them a new way to be able to use this cheat sheet and helping them work through some exercises. So again, we start putting this stuff into practice. And here's the thing, and this is one of those things that for you guys who are, especially like you Twitter business dudes and stuff like that, I have a lot of guys who tell me that this is something that I should be charging like a monthly fee for. And maybe at some point I will, but I haven't yet. And so that's to your advantage. When you guys jump in on this, you're grandfathered in. That doesn't end after 6 weeks. I have guys who've been in that Slack channel for over a year now, and they still tap me for questions. I don't see them super often because they're so good at it. But when they do need me, I'm still in there. They're still in there. I'm available. They still jump on the occasional call. A lot of times they're just in there because they enjoy the environment. They enjoy teaching and helping other guys. So you guys get lifetime access to that. And I don't hold anything back. There is nothing that's behind an additional paywall or anything else like that. If you're in there, you get any answer that you need from me. Now, what I want to do for you guys with this is I want to sweeten the pot a little bit more. So if you jump in with Project Your Power and you do it before the end of the weekend, then I'm also going to throw in my Dress Like a Man program. And there's some really cool things that are really beneficial for you guys with this, okay? We talked about the few staples like the Henley and the jeans and stuff like that I think you should have. There are actually 35 things that, irrespective of your tribes, your archetypes, any of that, if you have these items, you're going to be stylish. And depending on how you wear them or how you pair them or anything else, those are really good ways to kind of lean into or lean out of different tribes or archetypes. But I'm going to give you guys all of them. I'm going to show you what they are. I guarantee you that a lot of you guys don't have most of these things. I'm also going to teach you why your style tells a personal story, how to make sure that that's a good one. We're going to go through some really good case studies of some other guys, even simple stuff like what sunglasses are going to be best according to your face shape. And then this is where we start to get really heavy into the philosophy of stuff and why your ancestors cared about things like strength and courage and how they used that to communicate their masculinity, how they did that all with their style. Okay, so sum all this up for you guys. You've got your Project Your Power, the 6-week training. That's valued at just under $3,000 at $29.97. Your style cheat sheets at $497. Your weekly live Q&As, $797. Lifetime access, which arguably $670, but I could say that, there are guys who would pay a lot more for that. And I throw in the Dress Like a Man for $97. So the total value of this, just over $5,000. And honestly, That's about what I charge a lot of my one-on-one clients to work with me, is this price. And they get the same curriculum. They get the same cheat sheets. They get access to the same Slack channel, all that kind of stuff. So let's run the numbers. Now, I'm not going to charge you guys that tonight, especially because, we're now an hour into this, and I've loved talking to you guys. I'm not going to charge you that. But if I did, what would that mean for you? I mean, would it be worth it if that meant that you'd never wasted a single dollar? And a lot of times when I ask guys that, they think, okay, well, yeah, I mean, let's say if it were 5,000, I mean, I'm probably not going to spend $5,000 on clothes for the next couple of years. And that's true. Unless you're somebody who's really spending a lot of money on clothes, that's true. But here's the thing. This isn't just good for the next couple of years. You're probably going to spend a lot more than $5,000 on clothes over the next 50 years of your life. Okay. And if you knew that every single one of those dollars went to the right place, as opposed to just being something that it's like, I hope this works, or, well, I'm going to play it safe because I know that at least I'm not embarrassing myself that way and I'm going to continue to maintain the status quo. But if you knew that it was something that was actually working for you, how much would that be worth? Oh, yeah. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, we've got Robert in here that's giving me a little impromptu testimonial. What about if it were something that it actually led to you making more money? All right. Because that happens, whether we like it or not. There are things like the halo effect and stuff like that. More attractive men, we make more money, period. And why not make yourself more attractive, especially because you can't do much about your face. And that's fine because, men, we're not necessarily judged by our face anyway. But you can get in better shape and you can dress better. And this is going to definitely dressing better. So what would you do if it actually made you more money? And most importantly, this is the thing that it did for me. And this is the thing that my most loyal kind of raving fans who've gone through the course of experience is, what if it changed your whole perception of yourself? What if it changed from either you guys were at the beginning of your own kind of self-optimization of, man, I feel like I don't really have anything going for me and I need a small win, or you guys were even further along and you deal with imposter syndrome because the man who stares back at you in the mirror every day still looks like the guy that you were 15 years ago before you started making all those other improvements. But if you could actually change the way that you perceive yourself, if you could actually see who you were and what you were doing and that you were self-optimizing, I mean, to me, that seems like that's pretty easy. I would pay $5,000 for that. And I have paid for that when it comes to other programs and stuff. And every single one of those has absolutely been worth it to get similar results. But obviously, I'm not going to charge you guys that. That's not going to be the actual price. I'm going to charge you less than 10% of that. So like I said, for you guys who are still around with me tonight, for you guys who want to jump in on this early and take advantage of this, I'm going to sell you this whole thing for $497. Okay. We're going to knock it down to less than 10%. And again, all that value, everything, I'm not holding anything back on it. We're going to do it for you at that $497. Now, for the skeptics who are out there, I want to address a couple of things for you when it comes to this. There's usually 3 reasons why I get guys who are skeptical. One's ego, another one's money, and the third one is that they just don't believe it's going to help anything. For you guys who don't believe it will help anything, honestly, if I haven't convinced you of that tonight, then why would I can't do anything for you. So you might as well, I hope you enjoyed something. I hope you got something else, but you can just take off. When it comes to ego and money, let's talk about those things. It probably feels weird to be told how to dress. Okay. I get that. It's one of those things basic. I mean, my 2-year-old daughter is learning how to put her clothes on and take them off by herself. It's this very simple, fundamental thing. And it can feel weird to be told how to dress. But here's the other thing is that you weren't actually probably taught how to do it properly, because it's not the simple mechanics of putting clothing on your body. It's more about how to express yourself. And if your dad didn't teach you, if you didn't learn how to do this, it's not something that naturally happens. It's a skill set that needs to be developed. You shouldn't be embarrassed to not know how to do this. It shouldn't feel weird any more than it would feel weird to have somebody teach you how to swim or to golf or to ride a bike or anything else like that. This is not something that you just pick up naturally. All right. And the people who really want to excel at those things, the people who can see the benefits of those things, they pay for coaching. I pay for coaching, especially with my business, all the time. And every single time that I have, I've seen it come back. And one of the other reasons is that if you want to improve rapidly, if you really don't want this to be like a 2-year drawn out process with a bunch of frustration and stuff like that, you want somebody in your corner. You want somebody who can look at you and say, that's too big of a risk. I don't think you should do that. Or, dude, you're totally nailing it with that. Wear that, feel awesome, feel confident because you're crushing it, that kind of stuff. For you guys who it's a money thing, let's talk about the value of this, because Eugene just asked, why charge less? And ultimately what it comes down to is that I love working with my clients who can come in and they can afford it at that higher price point. But I know that a lot of guys who are coming in and they can't. And this is one of those things where, honestly, if I really wanted to, I could try and sell 1,000 of these and sell them at $9, but it's not cheap. There's value in it. And the real reason why I charge what I do is I want it to hurt a little bit, because I want you guys to take it seriously. When you take it seriously, you actually act on it. If this is the kind of thing that I gave out for free, or the kind of thing that were like a $27 book or something else like that, you wouldn't actually act on it. The value is so much more than just the cost of it. And when you think about all the other stuff that you've spent way more than this on over the years, and I'm guilty of this, I enjoy spending money on junk food or on video games or a Netflix subscription or other stuff like that. But the only thing that gets me, exactly, Jeff, it's skin in the game. The only thing that gets me is some respite. I don't actually improve when it comes to that stuff. It's just a chance to recharge my batteries. But if you were to pay for something that actually actively improved you, again, I've paid for that stuff personally, and it has done so much for me, not just for my business, but for my own self-perception, for how I am as a father and as a husband, for how I am when I'm working with my clients. Everything about me is better because I make something about me better. Does that make sense? And really, when it comes down to it, the value of this, oh man, you guys, if you're, okay, so I have people who hire me just as a stylist. It's usually like CEOs and people of companies like that. And that's a minimum opening bid of $6,000 to work with me and to go shopping for a couple of days. I charge a lot for that. And you know what sucks is those guys, they have to come back to me again and again and again because they're too busy to learn how to do this for themselves. They just want me to take them shopping. For you guys, not only are you saving a ton of money by doing it this way, but you also, and again, not just with me, but with any other, I mean, I'm cheap when it comes to like a stylist, but you get to do this on your own. And I'm never going to know you as well as you guys know yourselves. You are going to be so much better at this when you develop the skill set than I would ever be by dressing you as a mannequin, if that makes sense. So not only do you get a better result, but it's actually a lot cheaper than if you were to go the stylist route too. Now, what I want to do is make sure that you guys know that there's really no risk to this. If you guys go through this whole program and I see you in there, I see you in the Slack channel, I see you on the Q&As, I see you actually putting the effort, you know, like Jeff said, you've got skin in the game and you feel like you haven't improved, I will give you your money back. I don't care when that is. If I see you putting in the work and you're not getting any results, I will give you your money back. No hard feelings. It's just not a right fit, and that's fine. I would much rather see you invest that in something that's actually going to improve for you. So this really is a zero risk for you. You're either getting the results or you're getting your money back. All right? I wanted real quick before we open it up to Q&A, I wanted you guys to just see some of the things that some of the other guys have experienced. Now, this one, I love that I just got this testimonial 3 days ago, and this is actually from Dave, a guy who just jumped on like a week ago. All right, and so he says, I started Tanner's course last week. I already feel like I am making progress. Start first with his videos, read his book a couple of times, then make the move to work with him directly. This course will save me years of fruitless effort and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars wasted in poor clothing choices. Everyone needs a mentor if you want to make real progress, and Tanner is that guy. And Dave has been just he's been crushing it in there. He's been active. He's been posting a ton of photos. And so it's been really fun to see the progress that he's already made just as we've gotten started. And I will tell you guys that he was one of the better dressed guys already coming in, and he's still seeing a ton of progress. So for you guys who were the ones saying that I'm already pretty good, he's making a ton of progress, and he was already really well dressed. Here's another one. This is from my friend Tex, and a lot of you guys might know who he is. Project Your Power program is a game changer for a man wishing to take control of their look, maximizing the message we want to send out to the world through our clothing choices and styles. The program is a group setting utilizing learning modules, Zoom video calls, and a Slack group. Once your 6-week program is over, Slack participation is still encouraged, and it really is, you guys. I don't want you to stop when you're in there. If you ask questions, I'm still in there. So still encouraged and a valuable tool when looking to expand your style. Tanner puts a lot of time on the Slack group and has been a huge help, even while some are snapping photos in the store dressing room. And honestly, if I'm on there and I'm active at the time and you guys are snapping photos, like you're in the dressing room and it's like, do I do a light wash or a dark wash? Or, is the medium or the large the better fit for me? Post photos in there. If I'm on there and I'm active, I'll give you answers right away. So you don't have to buy stuff and take it home and try it on. I'll just help you when you're there in the dressing room. Steck says, bottom line, I no longer give away power on clothing choices to my wife or a store clerk. That's huge, right? man wants to be a mannequin for his wife, or even less so for some 22-year-old chick with a fashion degree, or some gentle dork who's working at Men's Warehouse because he thinks he's got a career in style somehow. If you're gonna, you have more control than that. You should have more say in your life, and especially something as intimate about your life as your clothing than that. All right. Last one I'm going to read for you is from my buddy Robert, who's actually on here. And so I'm sure that he would be happy to answer questions for you guys in the chat as far as what his experience has been. But he says, sometimes you make a decision and you don't know how it will affect your life. Project your power changed mine. What I learned from the course changed the way I saw myself. Once I learned how to express confidence through my clothes, my confidence grew. I walk taller. I speak with purpose. I project confidence. The course does more than teach you how to dress better. It teaches you how to communicate your masculinity, how to command respect. Really, it's a masculine development disguised as a style course. And honestly, that's the biggest secret, is that all the stuff that I teach you guys within here, it's super effective when it comes to style, but it's not just limited in that realm. It's super applicable in every single regard. It works with anything that has to do with communication, anything that has to do with you being a man and trying to navigate your relationships with other people. So you guys have the same two choices as you did before. You were ready to get going on this. You're excited about it. I hope you're still feeling excited about it. I am. I've loved seeing you guys get that energy and that enthusiasm. So you can go number one. You really can. You can figure it out on your own. I promise that you can. The question is it worth it to take the time to spend the money, to put in the energy and the investment and all that? Or you now have the power to choose number two if you want to go that route. As a sweet bonus for you guys, the first 10 people who jump in on this for tonight with the call, I will give you a 100% free 20-minute coaching call with me. This is something I normally charge about $300 for, and I will do it for you guys. I recommend that you probably wait until you're a couple weeks in so you know what kind of questions you want to ask that haven't necessarily been answered by the course, but honestly, we can take advantage of it whenever. So for the first 10 guys who jump in, I will do that for you. I'll give you that free 20 minutes where it's just you and me, one-on-one. We can talk about anything that you want to, and I love getting to do that with you guys. So I'm going to have Josh post up a link here in the chat for you guys. The card is open, so you guys are welcome to go in and pick that up. I would love to see you guys in there. And while we have guys who are starting to jump in, let's open it up for Q&A. So I would love to answer questions that you got. It's 7:20, so I would say we've got, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that we can go ahead and answer questions. And so let me know what questions you have about the course, what it looks like, what I can do. But let's hear your questions. I'm going to grab a drink while you guys start typing those in. All right, guys, I know you got to have some questions, right? Okay. Tanner, I'm probably senior to most of the guys on tonight. I do consulting work part-time, and I mix with very successful people. Can you tell me if you feel there's an age cutoff for what you do? Ooh, good question. Okay. George, absolutely not. In fact, some of the clients that not only have I personally enjoyed working with the most, but also the ones who've seen the most progress are the guys who are further up in age. Because one of the things that is a unique frustration for you guys is that a lot of times when you try dressing better, ultimately what that means is you end up looking younger, and that's a huge liability because youth and a lack of experience are the antithesis of authority and credibility and all the stuff that most men, especially for you running with very successful and high-end people, you don't want to convey trendiness or youthfulness or inexperience or anything else like that. And so that's one of the reasons why working with somebody like me, somebody who works at it from the perspective of masculinity as opposed to just this is handsome or this is trendy, you're going to see more benefit than I would argue a lot of people just because of that component to it. So I hope that helps because I love working with guys like you who really have a lot to be able to say and don't want to just look like they wish that they were still 18. Okay, Eddie, how much time does one need to commit to the course per week, would you say? Ooh, good question. I would say that it's probably each week you get, it's maybe about an hour's worth of a few different videos and stuff like that. And then the guys who are the most active on there probably spend another half an hour as far as just kind of interspersed throughout chat and questions like that throughout the time. And so, yeah, I mean, hour and a half, and then twice a month we do an hour-long video call. And that's also very much by design because as important as this stuff is, I know that this is not something that is it shouldn't come at the expense of your time with your family. It shouldn't come at the expense of time with clients or with businesses or things like that. So I try to give you as much help as I can while keeping the time investment as minimal so that what you're getting is the most bang for your buck with it. Okay, thanks. An all black outfit is low contrast because it's only one color, correct? As a high contrast guy, I always thought that it looked good on me instead of making me look sickly. Am I delusional? No, good question. So all black is one of those things that's kind of interesting because yes, there's not a lot of contrast when it comes to other colors that it's working against, but black is also a very saturated color. And so there's a lot that goes on with it. And so you could argue that that's actually something that's very high contrast, especially again, if you have light skin and you've got dark hair, then you've got dark here, dark down here, and it makes this really pop and stand out. Whereas white is something that's not going to be super high contrast. So again, you got to think about contrast, not just in terms of the relationship of colors between each other, but also in saturation, brightness, and intensity of color. So you're right on with you being a high contrast guy that black would be really good for you. Okay. Nathan. Hey, what's up, Nathan? It's good to see you on here, dude. Okay, settle a bet with me. I've been debating with a coworker. Do you have to be a former or current athlete to wear a pair of red, black, classic Jordan 1s casually, or does it work better? No, I don't think so, but I do think you have to have a little bit of sneakerhead in you in order to be able to pull those off, because you got to be doing like the skinny jeans and the scoop neck tees and so like that's something that's very tribal, okay? And part of that is also going to be what kind of shape you're in and stuff like that. But no, you don't have to be a former athlete. So I hope that settled the debate on your part instead of on your buddy's part. Okay. Yes, absolutely, Deseric. In fact, I've been thinking about you because I've seen you on Twitter the other day. Deseric is one of the guys who, you had prepaid about wanting to jump on as far as with the one-on-one coaching. Reach out to me in an email and we'll talk, and we can apply that to this. And so we can just have you pay the difference and get you on this, because I would love to see you in here for that. Okay, Ryan, how much will I need to spend on a new wardrobe? Good question. That is totally up to you, because a lot of times guys come into this and they don't even need to buy new stuff. They just need to change what they're wearing with what, or how they're wearing it, because maybe it's just as simple as I cuff this, or I get this tailored, or there's, I add another layer here and they don't spend any money. I have other guys who they come in and they want to spend, 10, 20,000 bucks. Sorry, excuse me. But I would say most guys are probably anywhere between 500 and 1,500 is kind of their first go as they go through with this. So that's a good range. But again, it can be as much or as little as you want to do with it. Okay. Why do a lot of people roll their jeans, and why not get them tailored to fit better? Okay. And real quick. Okay, cool. I personally roll my jeans. In fact, I've got them. If I could get these up here where I could show you, I would. I like the look of it. There's something. Same thing with guys who roll their sleeves or they pop their collar or anything else like that. It's not necessarily about just trying to get it to fit, but it's about expressing a little bit of personality or making something that looks a little bit more unique, or not necessarily unique when it comes to something like cuffing your jeans, but it just adds a little bit of contrast, or it plays with stuff that way. And so that's one of those things that very much falls within the components of both tribe and personal taste. And I like that it's polarizing. One of my favorite things is when I do the Wednesday weigh-ins on Twitter is I'll post up stuff that sometimes I hate the outfits that I'm posting. Sometimes I really like it, but I love that whatever it is that I'm posting, a lot of guys really love it and a lot of guys really hate it, because that's when you know that it's good style, is that it's something that's getting a response from people, as opposed to everybody's like, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, I would say if you don't love it, don't worry about doing it, because you don't need to. Okay, Eugene, how does one project CEO potential being a casual person? That's a good question. Okay, so this is another good way to talk about the idea that a lot of guys, and especially a lot of guys who are in kind of the tech world, they fall into this, is they assume that everything has to be formal. So if I were a casual person and I were in a casual environment, but I wanted to project CEO potential, what I would do is make sure that what I'm wearing is higher quality than what the other guys have on. And it's also something that's going to fit better and probably arguably even be simpler than what the other guys have on, because those are different tactics, but they still communicate the same thing. Attention to detail, discipline, appreciation for the finer things, stuff like that. And so it doesn't have to be formal. You can still be very casual, but project those principles through different tactics. Okay, let me scroll down here and make sure I'm getting all these. Nathan, okay, I'm in college and I feel like I've improved my style a lot. At least I feel like I have fairly good grasp of how to dress myself well. What are your recommendations moving forward? Should I now focus on beginning to tell the story I want, or do you have other general suggestions? Okay, that's a good question. By the way, you guys, there are only a couple of spots left as far as the guys who will get the free coaching calls. And so make sure that if you're thinking about doing this, do it quick, because those spots are about to fill up. So I've only got a couple of those left. Yeah. Okay, back to Nathan's question. So you feel like you made progress. So you're at that like 5 or 6. Okay, good question. Yeah, I would say what you want to do is think about what you're actually communicating, because if it's just that you look good and you don't look like a chump, that's good. But are you polarizing? Are you interesting? Or do you want to be polarizing or interesting? Because maybe for you, where you are is actually good enough and you're happy to just be well dressed and kind of be under the radar. If you are, that's fine. But either way, what you need to do is think more about what your goals are, what you're trying to communicate, what your goals are in relationship to other people and how you want things to go that way, and then start to bump them up from there. Okay, Eddie, who can wear fedoras other than black musicians? Oh man, that's such a good question. I've been debating like a post or a video on this for a long time, because rakish guys can wear fedoras, and rugged rakish guys it really, okay. The fedora is so contextual. It is so contextual. And so really the best way to do it is to have it be something that you own, but really you have to be so largely rakish, and you have to be willing to own the fact that that is such a polarizing thing. But what you can't do, I will tell you that the one way to guarantee that you will not make a fedora look good is if you try and do it in a completely vintage, totally refined way. If you try and do that, it's not going to work for you. That is the epitome of the Gentledork. And so as long as you have some rakishness and you're leaning into that, then that's where we're going to get you going. Okay. Okay, yeah, thanks for the reminder, Josh, that we're wrapping up here pretty soon. Okay, I enjoy dressing well, Belgian loafers, blazers, etc., but at times I find myself reaching for my Jordans. I want to dedicate myself to dressing well and proper. How can I commit to one style? Why do you need to commit to one style? It would be my question, Javier. I really enjoy streetwear, and I do that when it's appropriate, and I also really enjoy more formal wear, and I do that when it's appropriate. And that's where those components of both tribe and location or environment come in, because street style is way more appropriate than like dapper stuff in certain environments or with certain people. And the other one is way more appropriate when you're in certain environments with other people. And so I would say that it's neither here nor there. You don't have to just commit to one, but understanding the components of both tribe and location are where things are really going to come into play for you with that. Okay, what's up with jeans with a button-down dress shirt and tennis shoes? I love that look, Ryan. Come on. Jeans with button down and tennis shoes, it's kind of a high-low thing. And it's one of those things that has a lot of it pulls from like East Coast, Ivy League waspy stuff where, you know, they're part of a tribe that is very dressed up and it's very formal, but they also want to be able to embrace a more casual component of it too. And that's the thing, is you have to do it right in order for it to be able to work, because a regular button-up shirt that's like a super finely woven dress shirt is not going to look good with jeans, but one that's in like an Oxford or it's a linen or it's a chambray or something else like that, because it's more casual cloth and it's a work shirt, something like that is going to work. So it's actually a good way for some guys to be able to demonstrate mastery or social fluency or things like that, because they know how to do it and do it in the right way. Okay, what colors are worth wearing for each season if you live in a 4-season climate? I still stick with the same. White, brown. For me, it's that olive green. A lot of guys skip that and go with maybe something like a burgundy, and then gray and blue. And honestly, and if you want to play with more than that, then what you want to do is focus on kind of, again, your warm versus cool. If you guys want to go deeper in on that, then you can. If you're a warm, then you can wear autumn colors in like fall and winter, and then wear spring colors in spring and summer. And then same thing, if you're cool, you can do summer colors in spring and summer, and then winter colors in fall and winter. But that's again, the simpler you make it, then a lot of times the happier you'll be. Okay, for you guys who are jumping in, I'm really excited. We got a bunch of guys who are coming in. I still have, it looks like 1 or 2 more slots left as far as the guys who would still want to get a coaching call. For you guys who are jumping in real quick, what this is going to look like is you're going to get an email that's going to give you all this onboarding stuff. and then you'll be able to get in, and you're going to get this content drip fed out to you. But you will have the initial content that comes out to you like right away. You'll have access to it right away. You're also going to be able to get access to the Slack channel so that you can get in there. And honestly, I'm doing a training with my guys, so you guys are going to be able to jump in on this. We're doing a training tomorrow that is going to be super beneficial for you guys, because it's one that once they get it done and recorded, it's actually going to go in that very first module before we even get started with the body stuff, because it's just helped getting the foundation set up. And so I hope to see a bunch of you new guys who come in on that tomorrow. So yeah, that's what you can expect as you can get in. I love seeing all you guys who are coming in. Yeah, this is fantastic. Okay, I love seeing all you guys who are coming in on this. This is going to be great. Okay, are there any classic clothes that are timeless? Derek, good question. No. If you want something that's spread out over a longer period of time, that's actually where the staples that are in that Dress Like a Man program that are thrown in there, a lot of those you could argue are timeless, but they're only timeless in the fact that they exist in some iteration, because the way that they're worn, the way that they're cut, the way that they're fit, the materials that are used, things like that, those evolve over the decades. And so you can take a double-breasted suit from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all the way up until now. And even though they're all a double-breasted suit, they could all be out of a medium charcoal, 150s wool. They're not going to be the same thing, because all of those little nuances and all those other things start to change. And so, yes, from a very basic standpoint, there are things that are timeless, but the manifestations, absolutely not. And so you just got to be careful with that. Okay. Awesome. Okay, you guys, 8:35. That's kind of right when we expected to close. Thank you so much for staying on, for taking the time. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you're jazzed and you're ready to go. I hope you took notes. And for you guys who didn't, like I said, there's going to be a recording of this. I'm going to make sure that I send this out on an email to you guys tomorrow. And for you guys who missed out on those first 10 slots, because those are all still filled, there are still all the other benefits that come with that. And so make sure that you jump in on this. That deal is still going to be going on at that price point for the rest of the weekend. And so make sure that you get in on that. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot them over to me. And it's been a blast talking to you guys, and I will talk to you later. Have a great night, guys.